Hello and welcome to Homer for Thursday, June 25th, 2026. Today we are going to be reading between lines 514 and 524 in Book 15 of the Iliad. In this passage, we get to listen to the beginning of the close combat that we heard announced by the two warrior speeches yesterday and the day before. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and let's get right into it with the English. So saying, he roused the might and heart of every man. Then Hector slew Schedios, Perimedes' son, a leader of the Phocians, and Aias slew Laodamas, the leader of the foot soldiers, the glorious son of Antenor. And Paludamas laid low Otus of Culaene, comrade of Phlaus' son and leader of the great-hearted Epeans. And Magus, when he saw this, leapt on him, but Paludamas swerved from beneath him, and him Magus missed. For Apollo would not allow the son of Panthos to be vanquished among the foremost fighters. But with a spear thrust, he struck Croismus square on the chest. And he fell with a thud, and Magus began to strip the armor from his shoulders. Wonderful. Let's sing it in the Greek. Hector men Helleskadion Perimedes vion Archon Bogawan Aias de la Laodamanta Manam Leonam Thanoros Adron vion Uramas Oton Gulen Yonex Narix Uleida Oletaron Megatumon Archon Apeon Oine Magus Aporus in Ion Urupai Haliaste Uleramas Haidum in Apamraton or Harapol Eyapan Weon and Ni Promachoisina Mainai Autoragan Hois Mustafos Mesonutas Eduri Upasenda Passon Bo Montau Jasula. Wonderful. Fantastic. So this is a nice, sort of quick passage that we have here. It's only around 11 lines. But it really sets the tenor for what happens after the warriors speak. So we just had these great passages from Ajax and Hector. And they talk about, all these sort of invocations. And I don't think that the language here is accidental with, for instance, Hagamona Puleon Antanos Aglon Huion. So there are 11 sons of Antenor in the Iliad. 7 of them die. Already some great numbers there. But in here, we Puleon is actually a word for a dance, a sort of like war dance, warlike dance, and has been sort of intercepted and turned into this form of soldiers on the battlefield. So leader of the dancers, the son of Antenor, Aglon Huion, his shining son. This is interesting to me because, of course, the invocation of the speech that we heard last time was Hector is not calling them to the dance, Telamonian Ajax says, but rather he's calling them to war. Well, it seems here that they're literally dancers, so maybe actually they are being called to the dance. He takes him, right? It's almost, it's an interesting, so in 5:15, in Hector and Helles, Gedion, Perimedes, Huion. I think, Perimedes, okay, so who's that? Who's Schedion? Schedion is also probably a fake name because there's 2 Schedions. And commentators are divided. They're like, well, it's just a fake person. Other people say, like Aristarchus, he says, no, there's just 2 of them. But it does seem a little weird that, Hector, slays 2 of them, that there's 2 Schedions here. Yet at the same time, when I hear Schedion, I hear something dance related. not because of any sort of true etymological belonging, right? Skadion, right? So maybe like holdingness of godlikeness. Impactor and Hellas getting impactor and Hellas Skadion perimeros huion, right? So once again we end the line with huion, right? Aglon huion, perimeros huion. Perimeros is, being about one's sort of like mind, right? So well-minded, about well-minded, he takes Skadion, Hector does, and he uses this word hele, right? Which is literally, to slay, right? But it's, it's to take. Sort of sounds like, hyreo, that sort of verb family. Why does it take? We also take people on the dance though, right? Let me take your arm as I dance with you. That's a sort of normal phrase. I think it's, otune menos kai tumon hakastu, right? So the menos and the thumos has been revived in each of them. And what is the result of that? Well, it's still sort of in this back and forth, the dance sort of thing. And I think that, when you look at other words here, right, so in 520, toi de megasaporus and iron hodupai taliaste, right, so poludomas, at the start of the next line, poludomas moves out of the way from under, right, hodupai taliaste. How does that, how does he move out from under, and yet the processing, megathum on archon leader of the leader of the Apaeans, right? So what is the full translation here? Megas, when he saw this, leapt on him. So megas, eporus in idon, right? Because of this, sort of occurrence with the Apaean leader. Megas, he's on top of him, but at the same time, Peludamas gets out of the way. But even though he gets out of the way, he's still in close enough combat. So he escapes. Apollo would not allow his son to be slain in the foremost of the fighters, but he does hit with his spear Kroismon, right, Kroismu, right, in the chest, right. What is this exactly? Right. For Apollo would not allow the son of Paphos to be vanquished among the foremost of fighters, but with a spear thrust he struck Kroismus square on the chest, right. I don't know, this is an interesting sort of dance maneuver, right? So what is it about getting out from under? I mean, that's not like dodging. You would think that you would get side to side in order to dodge a spear. Hupaitha for hippo is also a very epic formulation of the adverb, right? I just think there's a lot to unpack here as far as the actual directionalness of it. And I do feel that we will be seeing more sort of clues that it actually is much like the chorus as was invoked in the Telamonian Ajax's speech. Because really, there is such a curious sense of belonging in the pattern of, A goes for B, A misses B but strikes C, and in revenge, D kills, E. You know what I mean? Like there's like these, formal back and forths, much like a dance, I feel, in Homeric warfare. And I think it's all sort of tied together with the general rhythm of the content. I don't know, there's lots to say about this, but of course, we must study the music for a long time in order to be good practicants, but that's what we're trying to do here on the Homer YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening today, and my question for you at the end of today's Homer YouTube video is, what is your favorite dance? Thank you so much again for being here. I really appreciate everybody that listens and comments. I'm sorry I don't have the time or the wherewithal to respond to every comment. I try, but I really, really appreciate you listening. Please give me your email address in the subscription or in the description to my essays in the description of this video. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for more epic poetry. Thanks, and have a great one.